Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. Here in the cottage garden, there's still a lovely blue froth from the forget-me-nots. They just create this mist you get by the river early in the morning. It just seems to float in and amongst all the other plants. Now, forget-me-nots are a biennial, which means that they set seed in the spring and early summer of one year, produce young plants, go dormant over winter, and then flower the next year. And after they've flowered and produced seed, the parent plant dies back. And I've also got another biennial, a foxglove, just to fill the gaps. And foxgloves are perfect because, of course, they rise up and come through the underlayer and compete with the roses. So I'm going to pop this in the gap. And you can buy these now. This is a native foxglove, Digitalis atropurpureum, which means it has purple, pink flowers, and will move the garden on from this early spring phase of tulips and blossom and forget-me-nots into early summer, where the roses will be at their best. Now, coming up on today's programme. Carol continues to inspire us to create seasonal planting combinations in borders and pots.
Surely, late spring has to be just about everybody's favourite time in the garden. How can you resist it?
We meet a man whose garden became a lifeline when he was most in need.
Early in 2018, I experienced my first major mental health crisis. The garden became sort of sanctuary and school. I'm crying, but it was actually brilliant.
Ashley Edwards travels to Holker Hall in Cumbria to compare gardening techniques on a much grander scale than he's used to in the city.
Oh my goodness, look at the size of that. That is a beast of a tree.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. I need to touch it. Oh, you can feel the energy.
And we visit the Alpine Garden Society as they prepare their colourful containers for the RHS Chelsea Flower Show.
So our display at Chelsea this year is going to be centred around troughs and containers. No matter what sort of space people have got, we want to be able to show these are the plants for you.
I'm digging up bulbs that I had planted last November, specifically for cut flowers. This bed was filled over winter with a mixture of tulips and daffodils. And I use these cut flowers for the house. But they're over now, so it's time for a change. I would recommend, if you're growing bulbs as cut flowers, buy new bulbs every year. And then the old ones can be recycled. I will pot them up today using old potting compost and leave them to slowly die back. And then when they have, I can store them and plant them out wherever I want them in autumn. Having freed up the space, I now want to use it to raise another crop of cut flowers, and I'm going to do it from seed. If you're sowing seed, it is worth going to some trouble to weed properly, so you don't have to weed amongst tiny little seedlings. Now, what do you think, Robin? Oh, look, there's a one. There you go, there's a lovely worm for your little ones. Oh, you ate it? I suppose you need it. Fearless. I've decided to fill this bed with cosmos. There are two reasons for that. One, I love cosmos. They make fabulous cut flowers, and it means I don't have to raid the borders. And two, and perhaps this is the most pertinent, they thrive in poor soil. They love good drainage, and they will flower much better in poor soil than in rich soil, where you'll get bigger plants but no more flowers. Now, draw a drill down either side, and I'm going to start with double-click cranberries. It's got a mass of petals and a raspberry colour. Now, these will flower a bit late in the season, but they will go on the flowering into November. They're affected by cold, not light. I've got a packet of mixed cosmos, And I'm going to broadcast these so that they can grow in different colours, but within the same strip. And I've got Sonata Cosmos mixed. Sonata Cosmos have shorter stems and often can be quite good as cut flowers as a result. And just rake over it lightly to cover the seed. And there we go. The seeds need to be moist to germinate, so if it's very hot and dry, you'll have to water them every day. Otherwise, weekly will be fine. And Cosmos are tough. They're adapted to dry conditions. You should start to see the seedlings in about 2 weeks' time, and they will be ready to flower round about end of July, middle of August, depending on the weather, and go on flowering long into autumn, giving us a supply of plants to pick and display inside the house. Now, a few weeks ago, we went down to Carol's garden to see the very best of her early spring plants. Well, now it's time to return and be inspired by her selection of the very best late spring flowers.
Surely, late spring has to be just about everybody's favourite time in the garden. How can you resist it? Everything is just bursting forth, wonderful foliage, and every day new flowers open. There are so many treats to be had. This plant is adored by the bees, but also by me. It's a dead nettle. Its name is Lamium ovala. I love its stature. I love the individual flowers. They're in whorls around the stems. And when you examine just one flower, it's almost like an orchid with these lovely sort of speckled lower petals. And the bees land on those into the centre, extract the nectar, get covered in pollen, pollinate it at the same time. And thus, we have loads and loads of them all over the garden because it self-seeds beautifully. For years, I wanted to grow perennial honesty from seed. I tried several times, but eventually I was successful. And I have to say, at this time of year, it's one of the best plants. It's full of these beautiful white blossoms. Eventually it will make seed pods, these rather gorgeous elliptical seed pods. And what a lot you get for your money. Beautiful flowers now, followed by gorgeous seed pods later on. At the beginning of spring, I planted a container with daffodils, gold lace primulas and anemones. This time, with my container, I've really gone big. I want it to be spectacular, and what's more, I want it to last for ages. All the plants I'm putting in here are perennial, so they'll go on right the way through late spring, summer, autumn, and what's more, they'll pop up again next year. All the plants love really sharp drainage, so I've added masses of grit to what is really very good compost. I love this combination, this Scabious Butterfly Blue Beauty, and I'm accompanying it with a catmint and a Peter. To complete the picture, I want to use this little Mexican daisy. It's Erigeron carvensianus, and it's such a versatile plant. You can use it in walls, at the top of walls, anywhere where it's really sunny and well drained, but I think it's going to be utterly perfect here. Now, all these things are going to grow and fill in beautifully, and with a bit of luck, this is going to drape itself over the top of a copper pot as well. And it will flower continuously. And within weeks, all these plants will meld together and they'll all start to flower and really burgeon and give food and drink to all sorts of beneficial insects. Well, this garden I call a brick garden, simply because all the paths here are made of bricks. Every so often, you come round a corner and you look at a bed and you think, God, something's taken over here. And that's exactly what had happened in this corner. Geranium nodosum and crocosmia. They're both beautiful plants in their own right, but they're real thugs sometimes, and that's what had happened here. So I've taken them out, I've dug the whole thing over and introduced masses and masses of my very best compost. And now I'm ready to plant. I've chosen plants, of course, that are going to love living here. And this is the fun bit, actually placing the plants. Now, when you're doing a new planting like this, it's great to have brand new plants, but it's also lovely to use things from all over the garden. And I wanted specifically to use this lovely iris. It's Iris pseudochorus variegatus, a variegated form of our own native yellow flag. And aren't those straight leaves with these big cream variegations just so splendid? And I think it's going to go so well with the plants I'm putting in from elsewhere. Now, if you were planting a Germanic iris, you'd have to make sure those rhizomes were exposed and facing the sun. But here, it doesn't matter how deep they go. In fact, this is an iris that lives in water as well, but it's going to adore this heavy clay soil of mine. Now I'm going to start with the first of my new plants. This is a euphorbia, a spurge. It's Euphorbia amygdaloides purpurea. So it's a purple leaf version of our native wood spurge. And in nature, this is just the sort of place where it grows. Dappled shade, decent humusy soil underneath from all those trees above. So it's perfect. And for a bright splash of colour, this big yellow daisy, Doronicum harpacru, is hard to beat. Look at this. This is my pièce de résistance. It's Hosta Francis Williams. It used to be called Aurea marginata for obvious reasons. All these leaves are sort of edged with brilliant golden yellow. Now, loads of people think that you can't grow hostas in sun, but although this is a sort of half sun, half shade place, it'll do absolutely fine. The only hostas that you shouldn't grow in really full sun are the golden-leaved ones, because they'll just scorch. Could you possibly have a better grand finale to late spring than this beautiful shrub? It's Exocorda, the bride. It's just burgeoning with these glorious blossoms. And if you look carefully at each one, it's got a green centre. And to me, that's just heart-melting. White flowers with green middles. It's a member of the rose family. It's incredibly easy to grow, and it's very, very beautiful. And of course, when you come back, it will have lost all these petals. They'll all have fallen to the floor. But elsewhere in the garden, everything's going to start bursting into flower.
Good boy. Well, as Carol said, we will be joining her in a few weeks' time when the early summer plants are really coming into their own. But for the moment, I'm just loving this late spring. This is my favourite time of year, no question about it. And when the hawthorn blossom comes out, then you know that summer is inevitably going to come. And of course, there is that saying, ne'er cast a clout till the May is out. And a clout being clothing, May being the hawthorn blossom. So for me, it's shirt sleeves from now on. Now, these are the grass borders, but they're not only grass. Lots of other things in here. Although I love the way that the grasses now are really adopting that lovely fresh green. And at the moment, there are a few alliums. We've got the shuttlecock ferns. I let cow parsley come in. The Iris sibirica are starting to flower. And then there are things like this, which is the Ferula communis, the giant fennel, which actually I need to prop. Unlike a normal fennel, it's monocarpic, which means that once it sets seed, it dies. It can take quite a few years before it will flower and set seed, so it's not an annual, and grow almost as fast as anything else you can plant. This will grow inches in a day, which means it tends to be a bit floppy. I have to say, this is the first bit of staking I've done this year. There we go. And I want to add some sunflowers, but not annual sunflowers, which I grow in the dual garden, but perennial ones, Helianthus. This is Helianthus Miss Mellish, which was cleared as part of the clear out of the dual garden. That can go there. I do love the way that the grass borders at this time of year are all these shades and textures of green, all the different vertical lines and the shapes of the leaves. Some are glossy and some are matte and some look a bit wrinkled. All that is at its best at this time of year before flowers come in and spoil the whole picture by looking beautiful. Very upsetting. Now, this soil is as dry as it ever is here at Longmeadow, and normally it's like this in September. Now, sometimes getting plants out of bags can be tricky, and you can see that the bag has shaded the growth, so it's very etiolated. There we go. Let's go like that. This particular Helianthus will grow in this garden 2 meters tall. So by the time it's flowering, it'll be matching everything else around it, and then will spread steadily. Now, this is Mental Health Awareness Week. And last summer, we went to Oxfordshire to visit Elliot Neep, who found that his garden proved to be a source of great solace and healing.
Welcome to my garden in sunny South Oxfordshire. This is a traditional English garden divided into various rooms. We have a cottage garden at the front, a kitchen garden to the side, and we have a rather romantic flower garden to the rear. The whole garden is a triangular 1/3 of an acre plot. It's on the north side of a hill. It's very dry, it's quite challenging, but I wouldn't be anywhere else. My name's Elliot. I'm a fairly new gardener, just about 6 or 7 years experience now, but I've learned a hell of a lot in that time. Before that, I was an international wildlife photographer, travelled all the way around the world. In the Arctic, I travelled there mostly for polar bears. We went to Antarctica for the penguins. In India, where I actually met my partner, Jack, I was there photographing tigers. We moved here in 2014. The garden was very overgrown, just walls of ivy and privet everywhere, lots and lots of brambles that needed digging out, and it was a real endeavour just to sort of take the garden back to bare bones and to start again. We're standing in the cottage garden right now. We've added eutopiary, and then in between we've planted Alchemilla mollis, Salvia caradonna, lots of hardy geraniums. It was a very, very dry garden. We had to mulch heavily year upon year just to build up the moisture retention in the soil. But it was so effective, we can actually plant things like astrantia that require a bit more moisture around the roots. Early in 2018, I experienced my first major mental health crisis. You know, there are certainly worse places to be sort of holed up, and the garden became sort of sanctuary and school at the same time. And then the winter of 21 and 22, I was almost catatonic with a depressive state. Jack saved me. She got me the help I needed. It turned out that I was bipolar. With a new medication, it was like someone had thrown the light switch in a stadium. I'm crying, but it was actually brilliant. You know, the garden does nurture you. And I think this has all just happened at just the right time, because now I've got my camera out again, it's dusted off, I'm taking photos of the garden and plants, and I've got my passion for photography back as well. We're now in the kitchen garden. It's just 6 raised beds made of scaffold boards and fence posts. There's no rotation, it's all no dig. All I do is make my own compost, and I spread the compost on all the beds in November, and that's it for nutrition for the year. There's very, very few weeds in here, and one of the benefits of the mesh covers, it keeps all those annual weeds that are blown in, keeps them out. And a really good part of no dig is that you're not constantly churning the soil up and bringing old weed seeds to the surface. I'm going to pot on one of my hostas that I've made from a division from one of those down there. It's a blue halcyon. The question I get asked most, probably about the whole garden, is how I keep the hostas looking so good. And there's a few things that I do every year. When you see the shoots just nosing through, I tip the pot on its side, and I look at the drainage hole underneath, because that's where the slugs and snails will overwinter. They're really, really cunning. And the crock that you put in there, they're normally hiding in there. Once I've checked for slugs, it's a sprinkling of just basic fish blood and bone meal, and then a fresh dress of good quality bark-based compost. It's weekly waterings, rain or shine. The other thing I do is once we reach sort of June, you'll see the flower spikes start to come out. It's a really exhausting process producing a flower for a plant. And once they're pollinated, the plant's job is fundamentally over, and it can start shutting down for autumn. So you'll see the leaves going yellow and they'll lose their shape. But if you cut the flower stems out, the leaves stay fresher for longer. So now we are in the flower garden, and this followed straight after the no-dig kitchen garden. I thought, well, if you can do no-dig with vegetables, why can't you do no-dig with ornamentals? And all I did was literally chop a hole in the turf, a sprinkle of mycorrhizal fungi, put the plant straight in. And then around the plant was cardboard to kill off the grass and exclude daylight, and then a mulch of compost. And that went over all the garden. And 6 months later, the cardboard had completely rotted away, the grass was dead, and the garden was absolutely booming. Before this was a flower garden, it was just lawn, and you would be lucky to see a single bee. The vast majority of plants here are single, open, or multi-headed or tubular flowers, great for pollinators. And I mean, it's alive with bees right now. Everything's just buzzing. So the first plants to go in were all the herbaceous perennials. I'd grown a lot of the roses from cuttings. They went in next. And then we added trees towards the background as a sort of a next phase. Now I think this border is about 6 meters deep. And along the back, we've put really towering herbaceous perennials like giant scabious and eupatorium and valerians. And then in between, we've put a lot of ornamental cherries and 2 birch trees and also 2 weeping pear trees. I imagine it's going to get quite crowded in a few years, but it just means we have something going on almost all year round. It's a wonder that you can turn a piece of grass into something so joyous in such a short period of time. In those dark times, being able to just come out here, get your hands in the ground, feel the sun on your back, and just, just look at something that you've grown from seed or smell a rose. Watch the bees. It's a real tonic. I am just level and positive and I'm happy.
I don't think anyone could fail to be moved by Elliots' story. And it will be familiar to many people, myself included. And there is something about the garden and nature that you have to be truthful to and is truthful back to you. And that's a kind of mysterious but very powerful healing force. And his hostas look pretty good. And if you remember, I am doing a kind of informal trial here with hostas because I get so many people telling me that their hostas are devastated by slugs. And it turns out that nearly always they're being grown in pots. And my theory is that when you grow hostas in a pot, they get stressed. And a stressed plant is more likely to be attacked than one that isn't stressed. So there are a number of things to do to avoid stress. First of all is have a big enough pot. If a hosta's roots are constrained or they're not getting enough food or enough water, then that's going to cause stress even if you can't see it above ground. Number 2, give them a rich compost. I mix lots of garden compost in with mine, and I've mulched these with another inch or 2 of garden compost. So there's plenty of food. And then water them. Now, Elliot says he waters once a week. I water every day if it's hot and dry, and at least every 2 or 3 days, whatever the weather. And they should grow healthy and happy and not be attacked by slugs. But we'll see. Watch this space. All winter, this greenhouse supplies us with our fresh greens, but I've cleared the decks now because I want to start planting out tomatoes. And I've got some here, this is Gardener's Delight, which are destined to be grown outside. But I won't put them out yet because it was almost a frost last night, there was a frost the night before, and it's that variation in temperature between very cold at night and really quite warm during the day that tomatoes don't like. However, I've got other varieties here which do much better, in my experience, with as much heat as possible. This is Costoluto Fiorentino. Fantastic, heavily ribbed beefsteak tomato. One of my favorite tomatoes of all. I've also got another variety here called Black Crim. Again, delicious, but all needing heat. Now, the technique for these is very simple. You dig a hole, make it a nice deep hole, so it's deep enough to bury to the height of the first leaf. Now, that matters because it's going to anchor it steady in the soil. And tomatoes grow roots from the stem if they're underground. So you get more roots, they'll feed better, they'll anchor better, everything benefits. So we take the string. And what I like to do is just make a knot. It's a very, very simple knot like that. Push it down so it's taut. Take your tomato, stick it on top. And then just backfill. Firm it. And as it grows, you just twist it around, and that holds it. And then just keep going. Now, you'll see that I'm planting these quite close together. Slight stress will give you more tomatoes and slightly less plant, and essentially that's what you want. So being slightly closer together than you might expect is a good thing. Firm that in well, really firming it in. Because I've been growing salad crops all winter, a lot of nutrients have been taken out of the soil. So dug it over and added quite a lot of garden compost. And after I finish planting, I will water these in really well and then water them regularly. If it's not too hot, it could be as little as once a week, but in hot weather, it might be every 2 or 3 days. I don't know what you think you're doing up there. Now, since last autumn, the dual garden has been through big changes. The main thing is to return the dual garden to its original freshness. We hadn't really touched it for about 10, 15 years. It just did its thing. It was pretty spectacular, but wasn't really going anywhere. And I've got lots to add in here. Now, what I have here are some lupins. And this is a variety called Masterpiece. And I love the intense purple, and it's just flushed with a kind of rusty bronze color. Now, lupins are not rare, but I've never grown them in the dual garden before. But lupins come in a whole range of colors, and I think they'll do very well here. They come from the west coast of America, on the grassy plains, where it gets hot, but not blisteringly hot. And they're very adaptable, but they do need about half a day of sunshine. Right, let's take this out of the pot. Obviously, buying plants big like this is a little bit more expensive, but it does give you that instant hit of colour. And they're not difficult to grow from seed. If you sow now, you can plant them out next spring, but having these spires of flower are absolutely fantastic. Now, I will give these a good soak, but they will grow about twice this size and keep producing spikes of flower for another 3 to 4 weeks. So they're a really good link between the early spring flowers and then those of summer as we move into June. Now, Holker Hall is in the Lake District in Cumbria, and it's one of our grand gardens. And Ashley Edwards went up there to pay his first visit.
I've been a head gardener for over 6 years now. And in that time, I've spent most of it in the City of London. But I love to visit other gardens and improve my knowledge. I've travelled 5 hours north to be here at beautiful Holker Hall. The climate is definitely different to what I'm used to down in South London. I'm going to meet the gardening team and see how they look after this garden in this beautiful landscape. First impression of this garden is what a grand place. I love the clipped topiary hedge there. It's a very organic shape and it opens up into this formal area. You've got clipped domes and all different shapes. I mean, look at this incredible pear. How old and gnarly is that? It's covered in moss. I mean, that's taken generations to get it like this. It makes me excited to see what else the gardeners have done here. Head gardener Matthew Murgatroyd understands exactly what it takes to get a garden of this scale ready for its busiest season ahead. And we are adding a new specimen to the ancient 25-acre arboretum. Matthew.
Oh, Ash,
Hello.
how are you doing?
And what are we planting today?
So we've got a silver birch.
Right, let's get it in then.
Yep.
Exciting. How long have you been here, Matthew?
I've been here about 2.5 years now. I did a decade at Highgrove.
A decade.
Absolutely loved it, learnt so much, but it was just such an opportunity to come here and bring back all that learning to a new garden, which is just full of such heritage.
Yeah.
Although we're surrounded by these magnificent plantings, we're still planting new, we're still changing, we're still seeing what works and what doesn't work and tweaking things.
This is the exciting bit.
There we go. That is not bad at all.
Look at that.
That's it. Almost perfect height.
Somebody would think this is our job, eh?
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Actually, no visit to Holker is going to be complete without paying homage and respect to the Holker Great Lime.
Oh my goodness. Look at the size of that. That is a beast of a tree.
It's 400 years old.
Well, we're talking about legacy. I mean, this is a real legacy.
Yeah.
Whoever planted this has left a long, long legacy.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. I need to touch it. You can feel the energy. The responsibility for you to look after this.
It's an absolute veteran, and at night, on a stormy night, this is the tree I worry about, and is it going to change forever?
Amazing. I'm so glad I came to see this.
It's stunning.
The width of it, incredible. The grounds are beautiful, but for me, the true measure of any great garden is what you'll find behind the scenes, the engine rooms of the gardens. I've got serious compost envy right now. Look at this leaf pile.
This is great, isn't it? This is the leaf that we harvested this year.
Okay.
And then last year's is here, and it's going out into the garden.
Yep.
So we've nearly used it all, actually.
Amazing.
And then the system that I used at Highgrove, I've brought over here, and we turn our green waste every 2 weeks.
Nice.
Keep it hot, very quick, and then 9 weeks' time, 12 weeks' time, it's ready to go.
The compost is used across the garden and is a vital ingredient when a team are developing new areas. Nice, look at this.
Great, I'll get
Black
you loaded
gold.
up. There you go, one more.
Lovely, thank you. Cheers. Right, I'll take this over to Jacob. Jacob, hello.
Hi.
Where
All
would you like this?
Yeah, just here, please.
Yeah. So this is exciting, a brand new border.
Yes, the concept going forward is for mixed herbaceous and shrub plantings with a focus on scent, really, as well as autumn colour and autumn scent with the toffee apple tree at the end.
Wow, look at this. So what's really interesting here is that Will and Chloe have planted in big swathes. When you have a border like this, you can't just put one single plant in. You have to have blocks and drifts of plants going throughout. Jacob told me that the theme of this border was scent. And you can see some amazing actaeas over there. They have this lovely dark leaf which will contrast with the white flower. And to me, this smells like bubblegum. It can be a bit sickly sweet, but that's going to pack a punch. As you walk along the border, it changes conditions. So you can see here it's very open. This will be a very sunny border. But then you have this dawn redwood at the back, which will create dry shade. And that can be really tricky. But one plant that doesn't care about dry shade is Ep10. I mean, look at this. This beautiful, dainty flowers. That will do really well in this place. And that's going to add some real interest. As well as creating new displays, managing existing beds and borders is a constant challenge. And today, Matthew's team are creating plant structures to support the fast-emerging herbaceous perennials. Hey, Chloe.
Hi,
Hey,
how's it
I brought
going?
some more pea sticks.
Oh, lovely stuff.
I'm hoping you're going to show me how to do that. I've used pea sticks before, but I've never weaved them.
Okay, yeah. If you try and get some really nice branching ones,
Yeah, okay.
that will make a really nice support. to
This
be
one
honest.
is probably good, isn't it?
Yeah,
You want
that'll be
branch-
good.
All right, let's get a couple of these. All right, what do I do first?
Okay, so this hazel is a little bit stiffer because of the drier weather we've had. So potentially a really good trick is slightly bend it before you put it in.
Okay.
So like if you grab some and like almost like gently sort of manipulate the wood, and that will allow for easier twisting.
Okay. Is there anything you could do to keep it more supple then?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can soak it before you use it, or you could use it slightly sooner after coppicing it.
All right, I guess stick this one in.
Yeah, so pop a couple on the ground.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think 4 or 5.
Yeah.
If you can make it look like a bit more, I think, sculptural, it kind of like is a bit more pleasing to the eye. Nice.
And then when the flock starts growing through it, it's going to look really nice. From the clipped hedges and formal gardens to the ancient trees in the Arboretum, Holker Hall is a vast space to manage and a world away from the gardens I'm used to in London. Something that really strikes me from my visit today is the generations that have shaped this garden and continue to. The gardeners here, they're not just thinking seasons ahead, they're actually thinking hundreds of years ahead with tree planting and border changes. And that's the most exciting thing about being a gardener. It's not static, it's constantly evolving.
I have been to Holker Hall a couple of times, but not for a while. So obviously, having seen that, I need to go back because there are exciting things happening there. These are all salvias that were in the jewel garden, and we lifted them. To be honest, we didn't lift them because we're revamping the jewel garden, but because salvias do not overwinter happily in this garden. So they've been kept in a greenhouse, and you can see this is Amistad, the most famous of them all. It's already flowering because it's been in the greenhouse, although it's been hardened off for about 10 days. So what I'm going to do is place them in the middle of the beds, and if they look okay to me, then I'll go around and plant them. Look at that. Up above, we've got at least 20 buzzards circling in a thermal. I know they're cultivating the fields all around us. And buzzards often will eat beetles and worms as much as anything else, so it could just be that. But I've never seen that before. How extraordinary. It's like seagulls. So let's start with Amistad. If I pop that, I think, down here. Salvias love sun, heat, and good drainage. This will grow up tall. And the great thing about the jewel garden is that it's big. It grows up. So if smaller plants have to go to the edge, you need big, robust stuff in the middle. And Amistad is big and robust. So this is Garanitica, which is blue. And it used to do really well in this garden. It's been a little bit more hesitant recently, so hopefully that will come back. If I put that in there. Now, these three are Salvia curviflora, which is only marginally acceptable in the jewel garden. Because some people would say it's pink, I would say it's magenta. And magenta is one of those colours that sets off all the colours around it. It's not nearly as big as Amistad or Garanitica, so I'm putting these nearer the front. Now, normally I'd recommend cutting these back, but because this is a jewel garden, it has to rise up above the plants around it. So I've learnt over the years it doesn't matter if the plant is bare for the first 1 or even 2 feet. What really matters is what's going on up here. I've got about 3 more I'm going to plant, but while I am planting, we're going to go to Pershore and join the Alpine Garden Society as they prepare for Chelsea.
Okay. Straight down the barrel.
Okay.
Oh, Lord.
My goodness me, it's a real close-up.
We've got a lot of octogenarians and upwards, but it's got to be an average age of 70s, I would think.
Unfortunately, it's about 65.
Oh, I'm one of the youngest.
We used to be classed as the young ones.
We do have a bit of an ageing population, and we need to make it a bit more exciting.
And that needs a lot of younger inspiration.
Oh, hold on, I'll sit on my car keys. I'm Rob Amos. I am president of the Alpine Garden Society. Traditionally, alpines are defined as plants that will grow above the tree line in mountains, and certainly the Society is interested in those plants. But, you know, as far as we're concerned, an alpine is any sort of small, hardy plant that will happily survive in a British winter. Yeah, we're not fussy when it comes to alpines in the Society. Whether it's big and blousy or small and sophisticated, you can use them for structure, you can use them to create habitat, you can use them for ground cover, you can use them as a centrepiece. Alpines are just the perfect garden plant. This time of year, you can see the pulsatillas, which are a particular favourite of mine, either in flower or just with those really nice seed heads. We've still got some primulas in flower, which anyone can grow. There's still a few narcissus dotted around. There's also some saxes still in flower. And then in the Alpine house, of course, we've got our Aloysias now really coming to the fore as well. Certain aspects of this garden are a little bit traditional. The tufa bed, I can't remember what it's called. With the rocks on the side. Crevice, yes. So with the tufa bed, with the crevice beds, they're well established, and there's certainly excellent habitats for alpines, but they're sort of last century's alpine garden. And what I want to achieve is a more sort of contemporary focus on things like, you know, gardening for wildlife, providing habitats for pollinators, that sort of thing. And again, alpines are excellent for that because you can have alpines in flower all year round. So I'd like to sort of see the AGS really making the case for alpines in the modern garden. We're very lucky at the Society to have a group of volunteers who will come in regularly to keep on top of the garden.
This garden was possibly in danger of being lost. It was fairly run down, so I thought if we could get a group of volunteers together, we could perhaps at least keep the tide back, if nothing else. And to my surprise, when I asked everybody, we had about 12 people come forward to come and help as volunteers. They just keep on coming back. It's lovely.
I particularly enjoy just getting my hands dirty, doing the practical stuff, but the camaraderie, the friendship. We all come together once a month and, you know, we talk to one another about the plants, about the garden.
I'm trying to get rid of these dreadful muscaria.
Yeah, we've had those for a while.
They're lovely when they're out. You've got this sea of blue.
We're thinking now very much, well, you know, how do alpines fit in the 21st century? And it's also about how we can use alpines to engage different audiences.
If we aren't able to recruit new younger members, then like a lot of clubs and groups, things are going to fold. So I think we've got to adapt, really. Obviously, having a new, younger president like Rob is fantastic for the Society.
He's keen, he knows his stuff. He's had a love of alpines for many, many years, and I think he's going to be a breath of fresh air.
I'm not sure my views differ significantly from sort of the more traditional alpine garden. I suppose I'm more about taking alpines beyond the garden, really showing people this is such a fascinating group of plants, that's something you should be really interested in. Even if you haven't got a huge garden, there's going to be something you can grow. So our display at Chelsea this year is going to be centred around a collection of troughs and containers.
So what Anne's doing, I think, is offering an opportunity for the general public to see the fun in growing alpines, you know, and how anyone could create a little garden.
People just think they're hard to do until they actually see something like this put together, and then they think, oh, I can do that. Now for the fun bit. A little bench. There. Sorted.
We've done larger display gardens in the past, but as I say, we're really about now showing people how to do something different. No matter what sort of space they've got, we want to be able to show them we're the society for them, these are the plants for you.
Well, I look forward to seeing the display at Chelsea, which is next week, very soon. Now, these are Agapanthus. I'm just taking out spent flower stalks, which are very spiky and sharp. And you can see the white on them is because these have been stored over winter in a dark shed, and they just haven't had enough light. They love bright sunshine and well-drained soil. If you can give them that, they'll grow anywhere. Now, if you look in there, you can see that these fleshy rhizomes are very congested. So it's time to take them out the pot and repot them. Now is the best time to do it. Agapanthus flower best if their roots are constrained, but not so constrained that they can't take up any nutrients at all. So it's a fine balance. Right, I'm going to see if I can take this out. And I warn you, it's tricky and it doesn't always work. First of all, just take it and see if they'll tip out. I think the chances are almost nil. Ooh. Don't know, actually. That sounded good. Okay, let's try it. Yes, fantastic. Right, there we go. Now, if I lift that up, you can see it's root bound, so it needs a bit more space. So I'm going to divide that up and repot them. And this is where this comes in. This is the best tool for dividing an Agapanthus, an old saw. If I just go halfway down like that, off we go. So what we're going to reveal is the inside, which is the soil worked in amongst the roots. But the feeding roots have got very little, if anything, to feed off. So we'll put that in the bottom. Mix up a really gritty mix of potting compost. So you can see I've added lots of grit. Now, if I put that in like that, perfect. Just break these roots. By breaking them, I will stimulate them to grow new roots. So we'll go down in there. I will water that in. The plant is rejuvenated, and therefore, over the foreseeable future, will give me more flowers. But only do this, I would say, every 3 or 4 years should be necessary. Right, I'm going to pot up that, and I'm going to divide this one. And while I'm doing that, here are your jobs for the weekend. If you're growing potatoes, it's a good idea to earth them up. This means drawing up the soil to cover any emerging foliage and thus protecting it from late frost. At the same time, it will protect any emerging tubers from being exposed to light, which will turn them green and therefore inedible. Most tulips have finished flowering by now and are busy setting seed. But it's a good idea to snap the seed heads off, but leaving the stem, so that all the energy can go into producing new bulbs and therefore increasing the chances of them reflowering next year. The secret of growing lettuce in summer is to keep a constant supply without having a glut. The way to do that is to sow little and often. Now, you can sow direct, but I like to sow the seed thinly on a seed tray, cover them over with vermiculite or more compost, and then soak them in a tray. And then after they've germinated, I can prick out the seedlings and plant them out when I'm ready. The spring garden unfolds in stages. It starts with the snowdrops around about Christmas time, January, and then you get daffodils and the hellebores and pulmonarias and the big fritillaries. And now it's reached its final stage where it is dominated by a lovely white froth of cow parsley. Now it's a weed. The seeds are brought in every year by the flooding. It's a biennial. Flowers and looks wonderful, and to be honest, it's one of my favorite plants in the world. I couldn't possibly grow a garden plant that is as lovely as this, especially en masse. So it's a welcome weed in the garden. And backed by the primrose-coloured roses, Rosa cantabrigiensis, Rosa hugonis that I planted 30 years ago. The whole thing for me is a few days of absolute heaven. Now that's it for today. I shan't be here next week because I, like so many of us, will be at Chelsea for the Royal Horticultural Society's Flower Show, where I will be unveiling my first Chelsea garden, the dog garden. And I thought I'd just give you a little glimpse of how we've been getting on in the making of the garden.
Your first ever Chelsea garden. No pressure there, then.
I once said I would never, ever do a Chelsea garden. It's a huge amount of pressure.
And the man who is bringing it all to life is Jamie Butterworth. He knows what he's doing, doesn't he?
I sincerely hope so. One of us needs to. I have learned a lot about Chelsea gardens doing this, because however much you think you know, you cannot imagine the level of detail you have to go into. And it's just deepened my respect for anybody who does this. And our coverage of Chelsea begins on Sunday evening for a preview of the show on BBC One, and I will be covering it every evening on BBC Two. I'm back here at Longmeadow, no doubt exhausted, in 2 weeks' time. So I'll see you then. Bye-bye.